Hello and welcome to Paul Talbot's Aquarium Adventures. Now what I'm going to talk about today is what you need to have a saltwater aquarium. So, and a saltwater aquarium can be as complicated or as simple as you want. And that's totally governed by understanding the capacity of your aquarium. So, the first thing you need is you need an aquarium. And then you need some water. You must put water ager in the water, or preferably use RO water. You can of course use natural salt water. So we fill the aquarium up with water, we add a generous dose of water ager. The water ager is going to take any chlorines and chloromones and stuff like that out. The next thing we need to have is a hydrometer. Now a hydrometer is going to check the salt level. So what we're going to do is add an estimated amount of salt, preferably a bit less than you need. Then we're going to check the salinity, then we're going to slowly add more salt until we get our salt level right. We tend to keep the tank about 0.020 in a new aquarium when we're adding fish, and in a well-stable aquarium, definitely if there's invertebrates, we'll keep it about 0.024, 0.025. So that's how you're going to test the salt, and you're going to slowly raise the salt and make sure you've used water ager in the salt. Also, as the aquarium evaporates, you're going to make sure you use water ager or RO water, which is water that's been through a reverse osmosis filter, to top the tank up again. You don't use salt water to top the tank up. So, the next thing we're going to need, so in that we could keep some life. You could keep tiny fish, or there would be a capacity in this very basic aquarium. Then the first thing we're going to need is oxygen. There's a couple of different ways that you can put oxygen in the aquarium. One is an air pump. Most people with salt water hate air pumps because they're going to flick salt everywhere. So most people tend to go for a power head. And the idea with the power head is to put it right up near the top of the aquarium and agitate the surface as much as possible, because the surface agitating is what's going to give your fish oxygen. The next thing the fish are going to need is food, because now you're starting to get some fish in the aquarium and it's starting to get some capacity, so therefore oxygen is going to allow more fish, and then we're going to need to feed them. So the quality of your food is everything. So I tend to use a high quality food like Spectrum, feed them about 5 times a week what they can eat in 30 seconds, and watch their belly, because you may need to increase or decrease the amount of food. Now that you're putting food in the aquarium, we're going to have to filter the aquarium. So there's very elaborate filters that you can get, or very basic filters you can get. It's important to make sure that no matter what filter you've got, it's agitating the surface when it's pumping, because the filter is going to suck oxygen out of the water, and the water that is and the oxygen that's sucked out is because all the bacteria that grows in the filter is going to need oxygen. Now if you are going to keep tropical fish in your aquarium, you're going to need a heater, and you set it for about 25 degrees. If you're going to keep temperate water fish, it's much harder, because most of the temperate water fish like the water a bit colder, and it's much harder to cool the water than it is to heat the water. So the easiest way to cool the water, if you don't have a chiller on your tank, is to blow air across the surface of the tank. So obviously you can use things like Coke bottles and other frozen Coke bottles, other frozen options, temporary options, but a fan blowed across the top is a good way to chill it if you get a real hot day. So the heater is going to help maintain the temperature as they go cold, and then your thermometer is what's going to actually check the temperature. The next thing that we may absolutely consider is putting sand in the aquarium. You'll see some, particularly reef aquariums, run without sand, but I really think sand looks so much better. So give the sand a wash, and then you just want a thin layer of a nice fine sand. About 1 mil is beautiful. Next thing we want is some decorations or something for the fish to hide in. So live rock, this is dead rock, but live rock is the best, because live rock will bring microorganisms and also has a huge amount of internal porous surface area that allows the growth of different sorts of bacteria. So what we want to do is put the live rock in the tank in a nice fashion to make caves and stuff so the fish can swim in and around them. because ensuring that the fish have got plenty of caves will lower the fish's stress level. If you are going to get into your aquarium and you're going to start spending a little bit of money on the equipment you've got, and definitely spend a bit of money on the actual animals that's going in it, making sure you know what you're doing is really important. So investing in a little bit of an education, I can't recommend enough. So that's one of my DVD sets. So it's a twin DVD. It pretty much walks you through A to Z, everything that you basically need to know to run a successful aquarium. I will also recommend you check out our YouTube channel, which is Majestic Aquariums TV. And while you're on the YouTube channel, make sure that you watch the 8 principles, because what we've done is broken down everything you need to know about running a saltwater aquarium into 8 principles. And you'll find if you use those 8 principles like a checklist, then anything that doesn't seem to be going right will usually be rectified by fixing the problem that you didn't understand, or you're not doing, or you've forgotten about. So another thing to consider would be increasing your biological load. This stuff's called Marine Pure. It's basically the best biological media on the market, and you can place the Marine Pure underneath the sand or in the filter itself. And because it's got such a monstrous surface area, it will allow you to have more fish. If you have plenty of oxygen and you have plenty of room for the good bacteria to grow, you will be able to have more fish. Another product that's going to help you increase your capacity as well is a polyfilter. You can hide polyfilter underneath the substrate if you've got nowhere else to put it, or preferably put it in your filter. This will adsorb and absorb all the fish waste straight out of solution. It'll start white, and after a period of months it will turn black. So all these extra things that are going in are because if you're going to hold more life, then we need more ability to export waste. Another really simple is a protein skimmer. Now, a protein skimmer can be internal or external or in sump, but what a protein skimmer does is basically create a chamber where oxygen or bubbles and the water can interact, and then your organics or your fish waste is going to bond with the oxygen, and then that's going to propel up, and it's going to be able to collect the waste in a little separation cup so you can actually throw the waste out. So therefore you're going to be able to keep more fish because you're going to be able to get the waste out of the aquarium quicker. The next thing that we're going to need to be aware of is water tests. If you're just starting out, you can just bring your water test down to your local aquarium shop and get them to test them, but it's really worth having your own test kits. So the main test you want is ammonia nitrite, which is your high degree fish waste, nitrate and phosphate, which is your low degree fish waste, and then if you are going to keep corals, you're going to want to get into calcium and so forth, which I'll explain in a second. So having a good set of test kits and making sure you're testing your water with some regularity. Sort of at the start you'd want to test at least once a week, then as it stabilizes maybe once every 2 weeks, and then once it stabilizes after that, most people test about every sort of 3 weeks. Whenever you do test, it's important to put the tests into a logbook, because that allows you to record your results, because as you get busy you do forget all this sort of stuff. You forget when you tested it, you forget what your levels are, so it's a very good reference point. The next thing we'll talk about is lighting. All of this stuff that we've discussed so far is all targeted at keeping fish. Now, a lot of corals are photosynthetic, so they need light, so it's important what light you choose to put on your aquarium. If you don't want corals, the light you choose is not terribly important. If you do want to get into the corals, it's really important that you have a light that has a 420 nm spectrum, which is the blue light, and then you also want to get a full light so you get a natural look. Then as the corals grow, they're going to be absorbing light, and they're going to take nutrients and trace elements and that out of the water. So if you've only got a small aquarium and you're doing regular water changes, then that usually suffices. If you start getting more and more corals, then these elements do need to be replaced. So the solid structure of a coral is calcium carbonate bonded by magnesium. So over time you test these levels. If you see the levels going down, you increase your dose. If your levels are staying nice and high from month to month, then it's not really something you need to worry about, because that means you don't have enough corals in there to be competing and sucking these nutrients out of the water. Now, these elements out of the water. And then if you want to control algae, the best way to control algae is keep your phosphate level down. So there are products for getting rid of phosphate. And if you do want to reduce your water changes or reduce your maintenance, there are products that can get rid of your nitrate, which basically just lower your need for water changes. But that must be used with a protein skimmer. There's also other products to look at, like general vitamin trace element supplements. These sorts of things are not very important, but if your corals aren't getting them over a long period of time, then they do become important. When you actually do your water change, most people change about 20% of the water per month. If it's a small tank or if it's an overstocked tank, doing that more regularly would be highly advisable. I'm not into the big water changes. I'm trying to stabilize the environment, not regularly replace it. And when you do the water change, I really want you using a gravel cleaner. And then what the gravel cleaner is going to do is allow you to pull all the garbage out of the sand at the same time as you're actually doing the water change. So it makes your water change much more beneficial than just pulling the good water off the top of the aquarium. You're pulling the bad water out of all the waste and that out of the actual gravel. The other thing I didn't mention is that it's very important to clean your filters in water from the fish tank. You never clean your filters with water from the tap. So all I wanted to demonstrate today is that this is pretty much everything that you basically need to have a coral aquarium. But as you go up, the capacity of your aquarium is totally governed by what you've got and what you do. So if you've got any more questions about this sort of stuff, just put a little comment down the bottom and either me or someone else that sees them will answer your questions. And just enjoy learning about your aquarium. It's really not hard. If you've got the right equipment and you've got the right knowledge, then it's really a wonderful hobby.